Chai, Monica, you too the chop oh.
Na chop I no kill person.
Monica chop can eat, chai. If care is not taken, she will eat even me telling this story. They say that when Monica was born, she came into this world chewing, not crying. The midwife pressed her lips together and said, "This child has come hungry." That is to tell you how much Monica loved to eat. Monica had become a legend at every naming ceremony in the village of Ududu. While other children stole pieces of fried plantain between adult legs, Monica positioned herself beside the cooking pot with the authority of a general surveying a battlefield. She held her plate with both hands and stared at whoever was dishing food with eyes so wide and so determined that even grown women felt afraid to give her a small portion. At burials, she did not mourn with the family. She found the cooking area, identified the largest pot, and stood beside it. At the harvest festival, 6 boys were appointed to guard the meat pot from children. Monica dispatched all 6 simply by standing there, immovable, ancient in her hunger, until the boys wandered away confused and frightened, and Monica stood alone at the pots. The more she ate, the bigger she became. Her cheeks grew round as water gourds. Her belly arrived in a room before the rest of her. They said she could eat a mountain of rice and look around for more. They said she could swallow a whole goat, suck the bones clean, and ask, "Was that goat young? Because I still feel something moving." They said if you left her alone with the evening sacrifice prepared for the ancestors, she would eat every green, every morsel, and sit there with her hands folded and a piece so complete that even the ancestors looking down would not know whether to be angry or impressed. But gluttony was not her only flaw. Monica also loved to gossip. She inserted herself into matters that did not concern her. She gave advice loudly and took none quietly. And if you dared to correct her, Monica Chop would fight you with every fiber of her being. She had fought the blacksmith's wife over a piece of dried fish, sitting unattended for less than a minute. She had fought 3 children simultaneously over pot scrapings. She had fought her own cousin Blessing simply because Blessing's hand had reached toward the same piece of meat at the same moment. Monica stood over the weeping girl and said with perfect calm, "That hand came too close." Mama and Papa Monica had waited 6 years for a child. 6 planting seasons of kneeling before the river god with shaking hands. 6 harvest festivals of smiling at other people's babies and walking home to sit in the dark. Herbs that tasted like the bottom of old ponds. Charms that rattled when she walked. 3 different diviners in 3 different villages, each with different instructions, all followed faithfully. And then Monica came. She was round and loud and alive, and the moment Mama Monica held her, every channel through which the word no might have flowed sealed itself permanently shut. When Monica snatched food from another child at age 5, Mama Monica said, "She is spirited." When Monica beat a neighbor's son over a piece of yam, Mama Monica said, "He should not have provoked her." When the blacksmith's wife came to complain about the dried fish, Mama Monica opened her eyes wide and said, "Are you sure it was my daughter?" And before the woman could answer, Mama Monica poured a full calabash of water on her. Another neighbor received salt thrown at her. Evil spirits in the form of neighbors, get away. The eldest woman on the street sent word that Monica ought to be corrected. Papa Monica stood in the street and declared, "My child has done nothing your children do not also do. She is simply stronger and faster. Is that now a crime?" The village heard. The village noted. And quietly, the way villages do, it withdrew. Door by door, until the compound of Monica's family became an island. And on that island, Monica grew larger and louder. Monica Chop was 17 years old the afternoon she walked to the compound of Mama Neka. She went to deliver a message about women's meeting. Mama Neka was bent over a basin of soapy water in the yard, washing clothes. She looked up and said, "Go inside and sit. I am coming." "Monica, do not touch anything, no." Monica entered the hut. It was cool inside. the mud walls doing their ancient work. There was a mat, a stool, a shelf of clay pots, and on the low table near the far wall, a bowl, covered with a cloth. She sat on the stool. She looked at the bowl. She looked away. She looked at the bowl again. The smell in that room was the smell of rice cooked to perfection, each grain separate and glistening in palm oil. It was the smell of chicken cooked until the meat fell from the bone. It was beef seasoned overnight and slow cooked into a steel so deep it could make a grown man close his eyes. It was the mature heat of pepper that has cooked down into something delicious. That smell reached Monica on her stool like a hand placed firmly on her shoulder. She gripped the stool. She lasted exactly as long as it takes a ripe mango to fall from a tree. Then she stood, crossed the room, lifted the cloth. The steam hit her face and she sat down on the floor right there, pulled the bowl toward her, took the spoon, and she ate quickly, completely, leaving nothing in its original shape. She ate the rice, the chicken, sucked the bones, soaked up the stew with her finger and licked each finger from base to tip with thoroughness. She was scraping the last of the food when Mama Neka appeared in the doorway. "Ha, Monica, do you even know if that food was meant to be eaten?" Monica set the bowl down, wiped her mouth, stood, straightening her wrapper. "Food is meant to be eaten, and I have eaten it," Monica responded. "Get out of my house," said Mama Neka. Monica left, still picking her teeth on the road. 3 days before that afternoon, a woman had come to visit Mama Neka carrying food as a peace offering. The history between them was not peaceful. A loan given in good faith, not returned, denied, argued over, and left festering between them like a buried thorn. They had settled the matter publicly, clasped hands, said the right words, but this woman had gone home and tended her grudge carefully. She had gone to a herbalist to lay a curse on Mama Neka. The herbalist said the curse would be prepared in a meal, and she prepared the meal. Beautiful, fragrant, perfect, and brought it to Mama Neka as a gift. "This is for you, Ne. Eat it when you are ready." The curse inside it was specific. The one who ate would find that eating never ended. The hunger would grow louder and more desperate with every meal until the body, trying to honor an appetite that the spirit could no longer contain, began to betray itself, swelling, stretching, rotting from a fullness that could never satisfy. It was made for Mama Neka. Monica ate it instead. She was hungry again before she reached home. Monica Chop Chop, who had eaten a full bowl of rice and chicken and beef, who had left nothing behind, was reaching into her mother's cooking pot before she had finished removing her shoes. "I am still hungry," she said, and her voice had a quality Mama Monica had not heard before, stricken like someone who has reached the bottom of a well and found it dry. By nightfall, she had eaten again, and again after nightfall. Mama Monica woke at the second crow of the cock to find Monica crouched on the kitchen floor in darkness, eating raw akara butter with her hands, shoveling it in with a focused desperation that made her mother press both hands over her own mouth and stand very still in the doorway. The days that followed were not days any of them would speak of easily. Monica ate everything available and then ate what was not available. She gnawed raw cassava from storage. She drank washing water. She found a pot of spoiled soup set outside for disposal and hunched over it, protective like a dog guarding a bone. The swelling began on the 5th day. First her feet, stretched tight and shining, then her ankles, her legs, her belly, her face, until her eyes were small dark seeds pressed into dough, until her breathing was the sound of a sleeping village, low and labored. The villagers saw. They recognized it. Every elder watching from their doorways recognized what they were seeing, and they did nothing. They remembered the calabash of water. They remembered the salt. They remembered Papa Monica standing in the street with his chest forward. "Leave them," said one woman, turning back to her fire. "God is not asleep," said another, and they left them. Mama Monica, who had spent 17 years being a woman of noise, now sat in the yard in silence, and the silence was worse than anything. Papa Monica, who had walked these streets with his chest proud, now walked quietly, eyes on the ground, his footsteps smaller. They went door to door seeking for help, and they were met with the same harshness they dished out in the past.
Finally, in the deep lateness of a desperate night, they went to Debby, the chief priest. He was old in the way that matters, not just in years, but in accumulated sin, in knowledge that settles in the body and shows in the stillness of a man's hands. When Mama Monica knocked his gate, he opened it himself, looked at them both and said, "I wondered when you would come." Then he began to close the gate. "Our daughter is dying," Papa Monica said desperately, with tears in his eyes. The gate stopped. "Come in," said Debby Onkoko. They knelt without being asked, both of them, on the mat in this old man's room. Mama Monica, who had not bent a knee before any human being, put her knees down and kept them there. You could see them learning to beg in that room, painfully, like a language that feels strange in the mouth. "We have been proud," said Papa Monica. "We know this." "We were wrong," said Mama Monica, and her voice broke on the last word, and she did not try to fix it. Debby Onkoko watched them for a long moment, then said, "Bring her the night, when the full moon is overhead."
They carried Monica through the village when the full moon was high and white and watching. She leaned between her parents, and they bore her weight without complaint. The shrine was at the edge of the village where the farmland began. A walking fire burned low, leaning eastward in a wind that came from nowhere. 2 drums sat waiting. The smell was ancient, crushed green leaves burning, something earthy and without ordinary name. Debby Onkoko sat on his carved stool wrapped in white cloth, chalk markings on his face and arms, his staff across his knees. He examined his divination objects in silence. When he looked up, his expression was not surprised. She ate food that was not hers, food not made for her, not even made for the one who owned it, made to destroy, and she took it. He said the name of what it was in the old language. The fire seemed to lean back at the sound. He spoke to his assistants, who moved with quiet efficiency. There were leaves, incantations, something passed 3 times through the smoke in a pattern that held meaning for those trained to see it. Water, not ordinary water, poured from a clay vessel and pressed to Monica's lips. She drank. She shuddered from the base of her spine to the crown of her head, a long shudder traveling upward in a visible wave, and when it reached her face, she cried out once, not in pain, but in the sound of something being released. Debby Onkoko stood. He raised his staff toward the road and spoke words that the fire heard, that the drums heard, that the night itself received. "Whatever was sent," he said, "returns now to the sender." 3 compounds away, a woman jolted awake. She walked out of her house into the moonlight, unable to stop herself, walked to the center of the village and stood there and began to speak. She spoke about the money, the grudge she held, how she went to meet a herbalist to curse Mama Neka, the food she had prepared and the curse she laid on it, how the cursed food was intended for Mama Neka, but Monica ate it instead. She confessed everything, standing in her sleeping wrapper in the village center at midnight, and the words came out like water from a broken vessel, uncontrolled, unstoppable, shameful. The village gathered in their sleepwear and watched in silence because some things must be allowed to finish themselves. After confessing, she ran like someone who had gone mad till she left Ududu, and the eyes that watched her go did not chase her. She became over time a cautionary reference, the woman who sent a curse and had it returned. Monica was also used as a cautionary reference to children. Do not eat what does not belong to you. Always be mindful of what you put in your mouth. Monica healed slowly and gradually, the swelling leaving her body. First her feet, then her legs, then her belly, then her face, until her eyes were their full size again, and she could look at the world without the distortion of suffering. She was thin by the end of it, hollowed. She ate smaller portions and stopped when she was full. These were ordinary things, things every person in the village did without thought. But Monica did them with the slow deliberateness of someone learning to walk again after a long illness. Mama Monica moved differently now. The loudness was still there, but it had lost its sharp edge. She cooked for the family and sometimes for neighbors. She did not make announcements about this. She simply left food. A pot here, a wrapped portion there. The neighbors received it without ceremony, which was its own kind of forgiveness. She apologized to the blacksmith's wife painfully. And when new complaints came about Monica, she listened. Sometimes she said, "I will speak to her." And then she spoke to her. Papa Monica became softer in the face. He laughed more easily and argued less. He sat outside in the evenings now and greeted people passing by, where before he had always gone inside, as though he was quarreling with everyone. He apologized without speeches. A morning helping one man with fence repairs, an afternoon sitting with another and listening to a grievance that had been waiting years to be heard. Monica was not a new person. She still had opinions. She still spoke when perhaps silence would have served better. She still loved food with a love that was slightly too large for ordinary life. But she had been inside a curse. She had felt what it was to hunger without end, to need without satisfaction. That knowledge lived in her now, quiet but permanent. She did not become humble. She became careful. Monica Chop Chop served food at naming ceremonies, taking the largest portions, but this time shared some of the food with others. She was still large, but she was no longer bottomless. She knew when she was full and she stopped. They say in Ududu that to this day, no child eats food found in another person's house without first asking, out of fear of what happened to Monica Chop Chop.